I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Hopefully I just realized, hopefully I didn't knock the audio. I was unplugging and plugging in some headphones and whatnot, but hopefully I'm not booming into your ears. Hopefully you guys had a good week though. Welcome back to another Office Hours live stream, and welcome to another weekend. As I always say, Saturday is my weekend. You know, Sound Engraver and I have different schedules. We have my daughter too, the second half of the regular week, and then between her work schedule, Sound Engraver's work schedule, and my own, my weekend is really Sunday, Monday. So Saturday night's kind of like my Friday night, and her weekend is Saturday, Sunday. So we cross on Sunday anyway. Get a nice day together. So let's see who's all here. Welcome. Come on, chat, or the chat function there. Ghost Planet Max Inc. Great to see you there. Nathaniel Zalozball, Bradley Renfo. Nathaniel, I said that. You guys chatting about the Godzilla, Kong, and Kaiju and all that stuff. Darth Enigma. Man, you guys were chatting for a while. Going for it. Samuel Proctor, channel member, good to see you. Big Al Presents, always great to see you, buddy. Leia Plus Size, Studio Super, good to see you. Haven't seen you around in a bit. John Gonzalez, my dear Sound Engraver, of course. And so many more people. So yeah, the Godzilla and Kong thing isn't just a tease. It's not just a clickbait. I haven't seen the movie, so we're not talking about the film, the story, or anything. I really do want to see the movie, but as I've said before in previous streams, I'm just not going to the movie theater anymore. I mean, and man, it would just have to be the most tantalizing, amazing, thing to get me to go to the theater, and it was only in the theaters or something. I'm sick of the theater experience. I'm sick of rude people. And it's just a gamble, Yeah, well, if you go this time of day, yeah, I know, but it's still a gamble. So I haven't seen Godzilla X Kong. I haven't seen Frozen Empire. I haven't seen any of that yet. And I'm just waiting till they hit streaming. They do hit streaming a lot faster these days. It's not like back in the day when you had to wait like 4 or 5 months for them to hit DVD or something, A lot of times they do come out a bit faster now, which is good. I do love the theater experience, but I just can't stand people anymore talking and on their cell phones. And then you get those people who think, oh, it's going to be cool to react together as a crowd. Like, no, shut up. I want to forget that you people exist. I want to be zoned in the movie and experience that, So I just don't go to theaters anymore. So I haven't seen Godzilla X Kong, but I have been excited about seeing it, which I will. And I've been thinking a lot about just the appeal of kaiju, the appeal of these kinds of movies, because that's my angle. I look at things from the archetypal angle a lot, and thinking about that. And then I was thinking about some other archetypes, some stuff going on. I'm teaching my last week of the semester coming up this week, so I'm very excited. Then I get my summer break and have a little bit of a lighter load this summer with work overall. So I'm hoping that you'll see some more content from me on the YouTube channel. We'll see how that rolls. But yeah. Andre Hernandez, 2 days ago was the 10th anniversary of the discontinuation of the EU. I saw that. I hadn't really been following that, because dates and numbers anyway. But I found out about it because Matt Wilkins did a really fun video on that day. It is a bummer, right? It's a bummer, and and I have no problem with people, marking that. I was like, yeah, man, this sucks, But at this point, so you 10 years away from them discontinuing the EU and Disney, we're doing our own thing, and 10 years of Disney suck is basically what we've had, and no more EU stories, unless you count. I think they did one comic, and then unless you count the Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO, which is technically still set in the EU. But a lot of people might say, okay, 10 years away from the discontinuation of the EU, how sad we are. Oh, if only we had more. Honestly, given the state of media these days, given the state of the entertainment industry, I am thrilled. I am thrilled that the EU got out before everything went to crap. I mean, could you imagine EU books being written today? Now, I love the EU, and I would love, in theory, yes, to see many, many more continuations of those wonderful stories. But could you imagine EU books being written today? Could you imagine EU books being written through the Me Too movement, through the BLM movement, through the whole gender is fluid movement? I mean, could you imagine what they would, a lot of the same writers and the same, people behind the EU, the wonderful work that they did wonderful work. And I'll never, turn up my nose at the work they did before, because it was great. But a lot of these same people just, went psycho with the wokeisms that happened over the past decade, and you can just imagine how they would have dragged the EU through the muck and the garbage. And if it hadn't been discontinued, I think today we'd be looking back and saying, 10 years ago the EU stopped being worth anything. Maybe not exactly 10 years ago, but you know what I mean. So on the one hand, I would love to have seen more EU content. On the other hand, man, thank goodness. Sound Engraver and I are watching Stargate. It's my third time watching it through, and it's her first time, and she's loving it, and I'm having a blast rewatching it. And we were saying today, every couple of years, if you're a Stargate fan, it's no more than a year before there are rumblings about another series or a reboot. Now they're going to make a movie, or now they're going to do a series or whatever. And every time there's rumblings, I'm thinking, please, God, no, just let it be the amazing thing that it was. I don't care if all the same people come back, Robert Cooper and Brad Wright. I don't care that they, it's today's culture. They're going to run it through the ground, run it into the garbage. And, that's what Stargate Universe was. And that was even before all the wokeism hit, because they were just, let's do something different, just for the heck of it. Yeah. Didn't like that. Whoops. Studio Super, thank you very much for the super chat there. Said, sometimes I wish these guys would lock us all us normal people in prison. Prison would be a paradise compared to the outside world, or some sort of, hey, you know what? Just send all of them to California. No offense if you live in California. I'm sure there are some nice normal people. I know of some nice normal people that live in California, but my goodness, just, and then, where's Lex Luthor with our megaton bomb? Yeah. So, but yeah, I found out about the anniversary because Matt Wilkins did a great video, and I got to say, first of all, Matt Wilkins, we need to talk about the fall of Matt Wilkins. Matt Wilkins, just. The man's got problems, and the man is just, he deserves to be attacked. Really. He really did. No, I'm just kidding. He did this whole video when, Matt's a dear friend. He did this whole video, kind of going back and talking about the last 10 years, because his channel, he's just always been a real stalwart of the EU and given so much great information on the EU. And he talked about the last 10 years and some of the drama that some people have, like, coming against him and everything. And I didn't know anything about this. I found out a little bit out of it when somebody left a comment on an old video I did where I was interviewing Matt Wilkins about his, favorite heroes and heroic inspiration of heroes, that stream he used to do. And he was, and somebody left a comment saying, Matt Wilkins is blah, 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 blah. And I was like, who is this guy? And I looked him up, and he did like a fall of Matt Wilkins video and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, that right there illegitimizes any troll on the internet ever. If Matt Wilkins, like the most genuinely nice person you will ever meet on the face of the earth, if he has trolls on the internet, then, there's no credit to anything a troll says ever, because, but he did a funny video kind of talking about the last 10 years, just dealing with some of the drama and things like that. So, yeah, that's how I found out about it. So you had me there on Matt Wilkins at first. No, I just thought that was so ridiculous. Somebody did the fall of Matt Wilkins. I'm like, dude, he has this channel and he's had a blast with it. He talks about the EU because he loves the EU. He talks about board games because he loves the board. Dude's just having fun, and there are actually people that get a stick up their butt about that and need to go, we need to take him down. It just cracks me up how ridiculously idiotic people are sometimes. Yeah, it's people, and the internet is just like attracts the flies. It's going to. Those says, no, I live in California. I don't want any more crazies. Yeah, I know there are some very, very cool people that live in California. But it does have its reputation. Let's see what else is going on in the chat here before I get into the meat of the subjects and all of that. John Gonzalez, oh no, get me out of here if you're sending them here. Hello, Eldritch fan, good to see you there. Just popping in the chat there. Tom Spiegel, great to see you. Yeah, EU books presented today would be a nightmare. They would be all written by committees of radicalized hipsters and activists. Yeah, just no thank you. No thank you. All right, so let's talk about this. Now, I am not as you guys know, I'm not a super Godzilla fan, and Kaiju fans. I guess they're a branch of weebism, right? They'd have to be. But man, they get a little crazy, and I know some of you guys are like that in the chat. So let me just admit, I am not somebody that grew up on Godzilla movies. I haven't seen all the movies or anything like that, and I'm probably I really like the recent movies, but to be honest, I'm probably the kind of Godzilla fan or King Kong fan that you guys hate, because no, I didn't watch all of the old ones. I don't know anything about the old, all the movies and all of the decades of it. I'm talking about the current MonsterVerse movie, from 2014's Godzilla, which I actually really loved. As I said before, I get people, if you were like a major Godzilla fan and there was finally a new Godzilla movie coming out and you're like, is he ever going to appear? When's he going to appear? I get that, but I love the movie. I thought it was a great human story, really great metaphor, of Godzilla. I thought the story worked well, and I really liked the MonsterVerse, how they've developed it. And I've seen everything. I haven't seen the what's it called? The TV show, Monarch. I haven't seen the Monarch show, and I haven't seen the new movie. I skipped the Monarch show, as I said in the previous stream, because it's a modern day TV show. It's on Apple, TV, which again has a strike against it. But some people have said that there's some decent stuff in it. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a shot. I have read the tie-in comics though, and I've read the novelizations. I mean, I've really, really liked this universe. And honestly, what really did it for me was Kong Skull Island. Growing up, Godzilla was like, I knew of Godzilla, but whatever. Other than the Blue Oyster Cult song, I wasn't really drawn to him, his movies or as a character or anything. But I always thought King Kong was cool, just because King Kong is American folklore, And there's actually a in Virginia here. It's in Winchester, Virginia. We have to drive quite a bit to get there, but there's a little roadside attraction called Dinosaur Land, and it's really fun. It's a really great little attraction. It's one of those kitschy old time, highway roadside attractions, and it's just stayed there. And you pay your money and you go back and walk through this, nice enclosure, and they've got all these huge dinosaur statues, and it's so cool. I took Sound Engraver and my daughter there a couple weeks ago again, because we like to go every so often. it's so much fun. You can take pictures of everything, but then one of the last statues they have is a big King Kong, and he's got his hand out there, and you can walk up the steps and like sit in his hand, and you can get a picture from a certain perspective. So I got a picture of my daughter in King Kong's hand. I got a picture of Sound Engraver in King Kong's hand. It was pretty cool. So yeah, I always loved King Kong for that. I mean, growing up in that statue and stuff. But that was what got me into it. Kong Skull Island. I watched the 70s remake of Kong that they did growing up. Now I was, this was in the 80s and I was watching it on TV. I thought that was really cool. Of course, I eventually watched the original King Kong, the Universal King Kong, which predated the first Godzilla movie. I think it was 1933. I watched that when I was in high school film classes, taking a lot of film classes and studying film. And then watched Peter Jackson's King Kong. So I just love the character. I love the fact that, I don't see him as one of the Universal monsters in terms of if you were going to do a shared Universal monster version, like the Dark Universe or whatever. I don't think you should bring King Kong into that. I think it's a different type of monster, different type of universe. But I do appreciate the fact that King Kong, like the Universal monsters, does exhibit that pathos. He is, on the one hand, kind of the villain, but then he's somebody you really empathize with and sympathize with. And of course, just that classic, one of the greatest lines in film, at the end of the original King Kong film, when they take him down, he falls from the building, and the guy says, no, it wasn't the guns. It was beauty that killed the beast. And that's, because he was going after Andero and stuff. And that's just such a great line. And it just shows how much you can really put into a story like that, how much they can serve as a metaphor and archetype and all this kind of stuff. And, then Godzilla developed in Japan, and a lot of ink has been spilled on that, very deep and resonant reasons for that because of the whole atomic, and the bomb and stuff like that. And so there's definitely those tensions and anxieties that Japan was working out, existing in a world after the bomb. I mean, my goodness. And Godzilla served as a good, focal point, kind of symbol for atomic age damage. And so on the very basic level, and these are the first two, I'm kind of, figuring them as the first two kaiju. I don't know historically what you would say is technically the first kaiju or whatever when it comes to films and whatnot. Mighty Joe Young, maybe, I don't know. But, or maybe there's other Japanese stuff. But they're, and symbolically, kind of culturally, they're sort of the first two to really be the ones that got things going. And there is this sort of very basic, at the basic foundational appeal, there's the horror appeal. Oh my gosh, a giant monster, and that's never left. That's always there to some degree. And some people just like that, or some people primarily go or like the characters in films for that. But it's, that's there. So you start there. And it is, I mean, you think about a giant monster. I've got Rampage in the background. I'll talk about that in a second too, because that's a whole other kind of appeal for it. Well, let me get a couple super chats here before I go any farther. Eldritch fan, thank you very much for the super chat. You said, is there a Fu Manchu archetype? Someone from an ancient mystical culture or planet who also masters modern science, hero or villain? There is the other archetype, and I haven't talked about that in a while, but maybe I should do a video on that. There is the other archetype. I would have to prep that because I haven't taught the other archetype in a while. I stopped teaching the other archetype because it got a little too close to sort of post-colonial theory and stuff like that, and the othering of a society or ethnicity, and I just, whatever. I didn't really like, where a lot of people were taking my work with that, but I could talk about the other. It's a legitimate archetype. I could talk about that, and that's kind of what you're getting at, I think, there. But that's a good idea. Good point. I think I got some other super chats here. I just don't want to miss them before I go on. Studio Super, thank you for the $9.99. Said, I got friends that say, how can you like a giant monkey over a dinosaur that shoots freaking lasers? Or I respond, sorry, I'm not easily impressed with a light show. Saw the 1933 film when I was 5. Yeah, I mean, that was great. Now, I'm not like, if you ask me which one I'd prefer, I would definitely prefer King Kong. But I'm not like, anti-Godzilla or anything. I get the appeal. I get, And I liked the Godzilla movies that came out. I liked Godzilla. I liked King of Monsters. I thought they were great. So, and I was rooting for Godzilla during King of Monsters. I was like, yeah, or even in the original or the 2014 film, I was rooting for him. So, but yeah, I've never seen, and I know you guys will say, oh, but it's in this one, the such and such film. I've never seen or known Godzilla to exhibit the kind of pathos from humans, from widespread culture, let me say, that King Kong does. And I think part of it is because King Kong's a primate. You've got the iconic story of the Beauty and the Beast aspect in that film, which to my knowledge has never been in King Kong. I don't think it's never been like a woman, that he sort of falls for. It's different because you're dealing with a big reptile, which is great. It's got its own appeals and stuff like that, and you can do some things with the Godzilla stories that you can't necessarily do with Kong, obviously. But I think that's why, one of the reasons why I would be drawn a little bit more to Kong if I had to choose. But love them both. The stuff they've been doing recently, it's good stuff. John Gonzalez, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. You said, I've always been more of a Godzilla guy. Okay, so the other side of the spectrum. But it's awesome that we live in a universe with him and Kong on screen twice in history, thrice. Yeah, because they did a first. Was it a Toho film? That was the first Godzilla Kong, I think. And then of course the recent one and then the second one. So yeah, good stuff. Just want to make sure I was caught up with those. So yeah, the that initial appeal of a giant monster. I mean, sorry, still got that comment on there. Whoops, it's putting everybody. Samuel Proctor, sorry, throwing you up there. Well, actually, since I threw you up on there, Samuel Proctor, and you're a channel member, I'll go ahead and read what you said. You said, yeah, I'm one of those who only prefer the giant monster rather than them being portrayed as heroes or even anti-villains. There's too much loss of life just for them existing, even when they're quote unquote heroes. Yeah, I get that. And that's sort of one of the basic, as I was saying, the foundational appeal of them, because you think about being in a city, any kind of civilization, any kind of society, and then this giant Titan-like creature, as you say, just walking, they're going to cause damage. And it's such a stand-in for either an atomic bomb, a natural or a man-made war, or natural disasters. I mean, it's such a great stand-in for the things that we fear. We're civilized people. We've built civilization. We're not nomadic tribes, living in caves or anything like that. We've evolved into civilizations, and so that's part of our daily life, and we're constantly reminded how tenuous the things that we rely on for our daily reality and our daily concept of living, how tenuous it is when the natural disaster comes, when a hurricane comes or a tornado comes, or flood waters come, or wherever, depending on where you live, or war. We're lucky in the United States, other than Pearl Harbor and 9/11, to have never really had any kind of major attack on U.S. soil. But plenty of countries out there are deal with this kind of devastation all the time from even man-made war and whatnot. So these, giant monster creatures, and you think it's kind of the ultimate recontextualization. This is what good mythology should do. Good stories, good fiction should do. It should recontextualize our daily struggles, as I've said before. Our fears, our cultural, whatever. It should recontextualize all of that. So, the giant monster, coming into your city or your home or your town or whatever is a great example of that. And it doesn't always have to be. I mean, hey, I love the Iron Giant, and that's very much not a horrific giant creature film or whatever. But there is that, just the spectacle of it too. I mean, I grew up with those Clifford the Red Dog, children books and stuff, and the friendly dragons, and stuff like that. So there's that kind of thing. Okay, so that's the basic level, the horror of it. Obviously, I was talking about the pathos and the empathy. There is an appeal to a character that's misunderstood That's a big thing they played on with the recent MonsterVerse. Godzilla certainly misunderstood, in the 2014 film. He's there to protect, he's there to stop these other creatures. He's sort of, Earth's natural defense, against these things. And that was great. Kong on Skull Island is a natural defense as well, even with the Kong versus Godzilla and the inner Earth. I forget what they called it. So we got these natural defenses. And certainly in King of Monsters, where you had Ghidorah, who was the one from space, so an unnatural element on our Earth and in the ecosystem of these giant kaiju, so to speak. So throwing off the the natural behaviors of Rodan and all of these beings, and Godzilla was there to kind of right that system, and keep everybody in check. And wonderful character like Mothra there to sort of be part of the ecosystem that can heal Godzilla and help him through and everything. So, cool systems in place, but they're misunderstood by man. Obviously, that's the classic monster movie, the misunderstood monster. It's the Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Notre Dame, yeah, or even Phantom of the Opera, to some respect, So it's that kind of movie where the monster's misunderstood. They do have a good heart, but they're judged unfairly, by the way they look and some things and whatnot. So it's that appeal too. And I know a lot of people have talked, I've talked to a lot of people who are Godzilla fans in particular, and they're just really drawn to, this or that. It was Alec Purdue. He's not here tonight, but he's here a lot of times. He was telling me about one of the films in which Godzilla gets a child, or Godzilla serves as a father figure. I can't remember. He'll hate me for bringing this up and not getting it right, but I can't remember if it was one where Godzilla has like a child Godzilla, or if Godzilla is like kind of serving as almost a father figure for a human child. I forgot what it was, but and he was saying that he kind of really responded to that, to Godzilla as a father figure, just in the recontextualization of the mythos like that, and that's great, so there is that misunderstood son of Godzilla. Thank you. Freaking weebs. Big boy. 1967, son of Godzilla. Thank you for the clarification, though. So yeah, there's that appeal too. I think there's also a third appeal of kaiju, which is, and I think we saw this, and maybe it's evident in some of the older films too, but I think we really did see it in the Godzilla King of Monsters movie. Let me get this super chat though before I go into that, because again, I'm gonna keep talking and I'll go off and forget all these chats. Studio Super said, I do like the Kong movies, and where instead of the monster being on human turf, the humans are on the monster's turf. There's always this uneasiness because you never know what is going to pop out. Yeah, I mean that's the original King Kong, going to Skull Island. That's the and I'm sure they did it in a lot of other films too. It's the land of the lost kind of thing, right? So yeah, that's an element there too. And I think that kind of plays into what I'm about to say, because I don't think it's a coincidence that Godzilla and King Kong movies are really big in the mass market public sphere right now. I don't think it's a coincidence at all, because I think part of the appeal of these kaiju films is the sense that we've gone too far as man, and that we need to break down our society. Throughout the 20th century, there's always been these little movements of wanting to go back to basics. I always think of the song, the Tears for Fears song, Break It Down, from the 90s. Freaking love that song. We need to break things down. We're going too far. We're getting away from the human soul, whether it's science or technology, the good things, but also too, we get so far, and we talk about it on this channel, what TikTok has done to people's attention spans and all of this kind of stuff. And I think there is this general, desire to just kind of break things down again and get back to basics. And if you had an instance where there was giant monsters running around, I mean, they sort of make it work in the movies, but yeah, you'd have to really shift your perspective. You'd have to get off the freaking internet and look outside, for crying out loud, and really live in a different way and kind of get back to basics, get back to really what matters, get back to nature, if you want to think about it like that, in that respect. And there's a lot of movements about that. And I think these giant monsters would be kind of forcing our hand as human beings to put our phones down and look around us in the real world and worry about survival, even if it's just on that basic level. And I don't think it's a mistake or a coincidence at all that the MonsterVerse, in the teens, that's when it's kind of risen to how popular it is now. And think about all the things that have happened over the last 10 years. Like I said, the Me Too movement, big thing. COVID, the BLM movement, the the incredibly cantankerous elections back and forth on different sides, and TikTok generation growing up. I mean, I think it's a reflection of the tensions and to some degree. This is just one aspect of the kaiju appeal, I think. So I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking through the different levels of the appeal of them. And everybody's got their own. I mean, I know you guys have been talking about it. You've got your own story of why it's, what's drawn you to the movies, or when you first, saw them and everything like that. And that's great. I mean, that's great. I think that's awesome. I know Big Al just loves a big monster. I don't think Big Al's ever thought this through in terms of the appeal. Because I think I've asked him before, like, well, what is it about you that you like, just like a big monster? I've been with him watching trailers or something like that before. And I think when he first watched the Godzilla versus Kong trailer, I think we were watching it together on a stream or something like that. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And Al's response is, oh, 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 oh. It's just like primal man, that kind of thing. And that is the other aspect, which kind of ties into Rampage I've got going on in the background, is that it is fun to kind of live vicariously through the creatures too. No, in real world, if you really asked us, we wouldn't want to go cause a bunch of damage to people or institutions or buildings, however much we might, at least we shouldn't really want to do that. But it is kind of fun to think about it. I remember playing Rampage and the arcade games and whatnot, or on Nintendo, growing up. And it's just like, it's so much fun just in these little pixelated world to be a big wolf or monkey or gator or whatever, and just, just tear down the buildings, and you see people try and run and escape, and you grab them and eat them. It's just, I mean, I don't think I'd like to play the game if it was done in today's technology with the realism and all of that, but it was just fun. It was that kind of, a catharsis, to live vicariously through these creatures in some way. Nathaniel Loseball, thank you very much for the $9.99 super chat. He said, I have a 3-part post that explains the appeal of these kaiju movies straight from the original director himself. Just look for the first post under Bradley Renfo's post. That's going to be too hard for me to go back and find those while I'm chatting. But if you repost them, copy and paste your own posts and repost them, I'll be looking for the new Nathaniel Loseball comments to pop up. Do you mean the original director of Godzilla, the first director of Godzilla, or Kong, or what? But I'll wait for your or I'll keep an eye out for your copy and pasted post there. Let's see. Samuel Proctor says, Godzilla vs. Kong was the last new Hollywood produced movie I've seen. After that, I've sworn off new Hollywood movies. Yeah, I mean, I swore off Hollywood movies a while ago, unless something came out, something like maybe Godzilla vs. Kong or whatever. But I'm not going to worry about seeing it in the theater, of course, Studio Super, thank you very much for the $9.99. Says, when it comes to monster movies tackling the unknown, I think these being the unknown is the appeal. When we live life on autopilot in a rut, in a boring routine, we crave something new and unknown. I think you're onto something there. And I also think that it's not just an appeal, or I think I would agree with you. But I think it's even more than that. I think it's even deeper. It's not just the appeal of the unknown. I think it's also, I want to say, an appeal for something bigger than us. So maybe that's, in a world where we've just really divorced our culture, our popular culture, from any idea of God. Plenty of people are religious. Plenty of people, still believe in God, as we do, as I do. But popular culture itself, daily life, daily, media and whatnot, is just very much divorced from any kind of idea of God or even a higher power anymore. It used to be that there were at least sort of consensus that there was at least a higher power, and you would see that reflected, whether it was a New Age reaction or whatever, but you would still see that reflected in the world. Now, scientism has replaced any concept of religion in the popular culture, the greater popular, consciousness. And it's scientism now. It's the idea of, you follow the science and technology. We're in a great giant monster movies like, screw your technology, bam, so there is something appealing to that you can't just, because scientism, I think, is ultimately a worship of our own minds. That's not anything against science. Science is great. Scientism is placing science as the godlike thing on the throne. I can't believe anything unless it's scientifically proven. Which doesn't mean you need to believe something against science necessarily, but it just, you get science off of that religious throne. That's ridiculous. And monster movies, whether people know that or not, is sort of a way to deal with that tension of the desire we have as humans for something bigger than us. Whether you're religious or not, the human psychology has always yearned to be in awe of something bigger than us. And scientism claims, and I'm saying scientism, not just science, I'm not anti-science, but scientism claims that it is, oh no, we're all about the wonder of the universe. Oh wow, the wonder of no, you're about understand. The universe is at your fingertips. We can understand everything out there given enough time, so there really is nothing truly bigger than yourself when it comes to a scientism mindset, at least not for long, theoretically. And so, yeah, I think you're onto something with that, Studio Super. I see Nathaniel Lozball is posting those comments. Let me get to these here because I don't want to miss them. But he said, yeah, he was talking about the director of the Godzilla movie, the first one. He said, monsters are tragic beings. And this is a quote you got from the director. Monsters are tragic beings. They are born too tall, too strong, too heavy. They are not evil by choice. That's their tragedy. They do not attack people because they want to, but because their size and strength. Mankind has no other choice but to defend himself. After several stories such as this, people end up having a kind of affection for the monsters. They end up caring about them. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, I'm glad you thank you for sharing that. It was really great just to hear that straight from the director himself. But that's what we were saying, how we can see the misunderstood, and it's interesting that he talked about in his quote just literally the size, because I was just watching a video the other night about Dan Brock, who was the guy that played Hoss in the old Bonanza series, that was on television for so long. And he was just a great actor, a really great, warm guy. Everybody loved him who knew him. Everybody loved the character of Hoss on Bonanza, when that was on in the day. But he was a big guy. I mean, a really big guy. And it was talking about how he'd been a big baby. He'd been a big kid throughout. And he was in the military for a while, and it took them like so many weeks just to get custom boots that actually fit him, and not that he was like Andre the Giant or anything, but he was a big guy. And he would even say the difficulties of being, you have to be careful sitting in chairs, because you can wreck a chair, when you're that big. And yeah, so there is a very real aspect of some people just walking around daily life who, whether it's, physical size or strength or something like that, or even a deformity or disability, even, people who are different and maybe misunderstood. And, that's something we're getting better about as a culture. It was a funny story. My daughter, I've mentioned before, Alyssa, she's on the autistic spectrum, and she's pretty severe. I mean, she's 12, but she's developmentally much younger. And just, if you watch her if you just didn't know her, you were ways away in the crowd, you could watch her and you could see her mannerisms after a moment or two, and you'd realize she was, she wasn't neurotypical. So I had her in, and she loves amusement parks, loves theme parks, loves roller coasters. She's fearless. She can't be scared, and the more extreme the ride, the better. She loves it. So Sound Engraver and I will take her, and I ride the rides with her because I love that kind of stuff too. Sound Engraver's like, no, I'll hold the bags. But I was in line with her for a roller coaster with Alyssa, and it was one of her favorite rides, and she was really excited. So she was, stemming and flapping her hands and kind of making noises and stuff, just excited about it. And there was a girl in the line next to us who was, I don't know, anywhere from like 16 to 23. It's got kind of age, that can be anything. But she kind of backed up when Alyssa made that sound. And then she looked up at me and she said, "What's her disability?" And I thought, who asked that? Who goes around asking that? That's kind of a bold, almost kind of a rude question, right? But I was like, well, whatever, So I just went, oh, she's on the autistic spectrum. And the girl's eyes got really big, and she said, oh, "Me too. That's what I've got." So it made sense that she wouldn't think anything of asking that question. And obviously, she was way more high functioning than Alyssa because she was able to walk around and be at the park there, away from her group or whatever for a while or something. But yeah, so we're becoming a little bit more aware of that. And there's, but yeah, whether it's height, whether it's size, whether it's physical disabilities or cognitive disabilities or whatever, I think, yeah, that's probably a big draw and a big appeal of the creatures as well. Studio Super, thank you very much for the super chat. 999 said, could say in a culture where we have now come to be worshipers of ourselves, to live only for ourselves. There's nothing bigger than ourselves. Here comes beings to humble and shatter that mindset. I'm really glad you gave that super chat, because it kind of puts me in mind of another aspect of this. You're right. We do worship ourselves. On one hand, you could take it on into the scientism angle, but also with the advances in medicine, which are great, but the advances in the technology of it and a lot of the advances here and there, we do live in a culture now that doesn't understand needing to give of yourself. We live in a culture in general that is pretty selfish. Think about how many, it used to just be the accepted norm that most people grew up, got married, and had children. And some people didn't, and that's fine, whatever. Now, a lot of younger people, they're waiting a lot longer to have kids, or they're deciding not to have kids whatsoever. And that you don't need to have kids. That's not an individual thing. Like every single one of you should be ashamed of yourself for not having kids. No, of course not. But there is that push in the culture where now it's like, kids, oh my gosh, then I can't do the stuff I want to do. Then I couldn't sleep in until I wanted to sleep in. I'd have to live my life for somebody else. Oh no, I'm not ready for that. No. And you see that, that's part of the woke culture right away. I just want to be an auntie. I don't want to be a mother. Of course, because then you'd actually have to live for somebody other than yourself and actually have to experience true selflessness and true self-giving, which is what humanity is about. Think of it from an evolutionary perspective. Tribalism, community, we're social creatures. If the human beings are to survive, they have to work together. Think of it like in, ancient man. And it's still the same today, but our technology isolates us. And I'm not anti-technology. Again, Mr. Introvert Social Anxiety, give me my internet in an empty room any day, but we're so isolated that we're not self-giving. We're all about living for ourselves now. And a big giant monster comes into the room, you better look up from your phone and go try and find somebody to help you or work together with other people. So it does part of that. It does force us to work together, and forces us to acknowledge and accept or practice the social aspect that we are built for. And by social, I don't mean social media. I mean in person, helping each other, giving of ourselves. That's why I loved about the 2014 Godzilla movie. And it's been evident in the other films as well, but Aaron Johnson's character, he's just constantly, whether he's helping his father or he's helping the kid that got lost or whatever, and he's constantly giving of himself, and everybody is. Those movies do a good job of highlighting that. I mean, there's the dark side of humanity too, and what they would do in response to that. But there is the idea of humanity pulling together in the face of a big disaster like that, which is pretty cool. Tom Spiegel, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. That's I very much appreciate that. The hypothalamus is the part of your brain that enables you to be in awe of something. The antidepressants, puberty blockers, and other drugs that are so popular nowadays harm that. Now, time for me to go get coffee. Yeah. Now, I'm not an expert on the chemistry of a lot of these things, but you are right. SSRIs and the puberty blockers. I mean, that plays into what I was saying too about let's not have kids. Let's be sterile. Let's we've got the medicine to do that now. And our technology. I wouldn't even call it medicine necessarily, but yeah. So there's a lot of that. I mean, I'm sure there's a place for an antidepressant here or there or whatever. Again, I'm no expert on that, but you are right. We have altered our brains not only by the technology we have, TikTok and stuff like that, but also by a lot of the medicines that doctors just dole out easily now. I mean, all you have to do is go to your doctor and say, I've been feeling kind of down, and they'll throw Prozac at you. They'll just give it to you, like candy, It's like, whoa. That's a pretty heavy medication. And I'm not saying there's not a time and a place for it, but you should just be like tossing that out to anybody who has a bad day, and, I mean, actual psychiatrists who deal with proper medications and stuff like that, they'll tell you, family care physicians, our general practitioners really need to stop it with this nonsense and stop just doling things like that out. So yeah, Godzilla or King Kong, they come to town. They don't care about your anxiety. They don't care about your your depression. They don't care about what you identify as. You better get up and band together with humans and so forth. I see a comment from a dear sound engraver said, I read that Sophie Bush wouldn't have found her 1-year husband Grant Hughes had he not had an abortion. I'm thinking you may not have met him had he been the victim of an abortion. Yeah. I don't know who those people are. You'll have to explain that to me later, Huff. but yeah. People try to, abortion saved my life. It saved my career. Like, no. Studio Super, thank you again for this 999 super chat. Thank you so much. You guys are being very generous tonight. I appreciate it. If you're paying rent, you're already at service. You're just choosing to do it for corporations that don't care if you live or die. So congrats. You played yourself trying to avoid selflessness. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, when we worship ourselves, we're never going to find fulfillment because we're made for self-giving. And again, whether you look at that as from a religious perspective, like I do, or even just, again, as I said, just an evolutionary perspective, we've evolved as social beings. We can't find fulfillment. We can't find survival without each other. Eldridge fan, thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate that. It said scientism. One day we will be able to photograph the face of God, whether he wants us to or not. Exactly. Really, I mean, whether you're Christian or not, or spiritual or not in any way, go back and read the story of the Tower of Babel. It really is a great sort of metaphor for scientism today. And again, make sure you say that right, scientism. It's not anti-science, it's scientism, placing science on the throne of humanity and stuff like that in terms of being worshipped or whatnot. Oh, I get it. Okay, Soundograph, thank you. My point, the comment is that actresses and celebrities praise abortions as lifesavers, like you said. Yeah. I know some people are talking about, what about Hercules? I don't know if we'll get to Hercules tonight. That is a good topic, though, and I will talk about that. I might, and we're not done about the kaiju things. You guys still throw out your comments here or whatever, or we can still talk a bit more about this. But I was talking to my class we covered the Paragon archetype at the end of the semester for my Constructing American Heroes class, and I had them watch Disney's Hercules because I found like a place where they could watch it online for free or whatever. That wasn't sketchy, believe it or not. I'm sure it'll be taken down, soon. But we talked about that as the Paragon example, and it struck me that, well, it didn't strike me, I know this, but I really have to spell it out for some people, that when I cover heroic archetypes or even cover, archetypes on this channel, I start with the monomyth and then the American monomyth, which is just the American version, which is very much sort of, put out to the world, via Hollywood and so forth, has been anyway. And then we look at the sub-archetypes of the American monomyth, but the two basic distinctions I talk about all the time, the aspirational versus cathartic motivational. And I realized that, I didn't realize, I've known this, but I just realized that a lot of people need me to spell it out a little bit more, maybe just dwell on it a little bit more and really develop it a bit more. The fact that the idea of an aspirational hero, as I define it there, is inextricably linked to what we think of as America, the American way, not the bad things we might think of as America, but the ideals that grew up in America about itself, even if it doesn't always live up to those ideals. It's very much kind of what built the idea of the aspirational hero and a paragon in terms of, and through the aspirational lens, through that American monomyth. So again, that's a whole other topic. We're not going to have time to get into it tonight, but that's why Hercules was on the thumbnail, just in case we wrapped up with the monsters. But I should have known that you guys would never let me wrap up with the monsters. We're talking about kaiju. I am, like I said, I've enjoyed those movies so much that I shouldn't say this, I would be open to watching some of the older ones. It's not an invitation for recommendations by any means, but yeah, I should probably watch some. I like the old King Kong movies, so I should watch some more of the old Godzilla stuff here and there now and then. Anyway, thank you again for another super chat, Studio Super. Really appreciate that. It's off topic, but I like to watch reaction videos to old movies just to see how this new generation would react to old stories. I've seen this with Superman 78, largely positive outcomes. That's pretty cool. I don't watch that kind of stuff, reaction videos in general, but I do understand what you're saying, because I always think, like, why would you want to watch somebody watch something else? But I do get what you're saying there, to see how the new generation would, like, there are a series of videos that will have things, for example, like teenagers today reacting to, the music that you listened to when you were a teenager or something. And that on the one hand, it shows you, oh man, our culture, where's it gone? But on the other hand, it can show you that there are just some universal constants, and teenagers will be teenagers to some degree, no matter what the generation. And yeah, that's fine. I'm glad that Superman 78 gets the good reaction. There are some things still that, unless it's a hardened like Snyder bro or something, that you can't watch Superman 78 and not respond emotionally to that character, to the nobility, and to the, yeah, good point. Interesting. This is a General Savage said, Professor, does the main character from the How to Train Your Dragon movies fit the frontiersman archetype? Sorry to say, I've never watched the How to Train Your Dragon movies. I know they're very popular. No reason I haven't watched them. I just never got around to them. Never had a reason to watch them. But I probably should. I know they made quite a few. I know they're super popular. It's probably something I should watch one day. I know the idea of it. I know Toothless, the dragon character and everything. So yeah, should maybe watch those with Alyssa this week. I've got Alyssa for extra days this week, so maybe we'll do some movies and stuff. Isaiah Smith, thank you so much. Really appreciate that super chat. You said, if only Nietzsche knew he was when he said that God was dead and that we killed him. Yeah, that I don't agree with Nietzsche's philosophy there in that respect. I think some of the things Nietzsche says about like Greek mythology and whatnot are really cool. But it is very, when Nietzsche said God is dead and we killed him, you're right, through some lens culturally right now, just on a cultural, yeah. I mean, in terms of, God's obviously not dead, but you know what I mean. The and I think what you're saying too is that as far as popular culture is concerned, popular culture does not consider God anymore. And it doesn't even have to be, like I said, a specific religion's God, just the at least the very acknowledgement of a higher power out there, or something bigger than us, something beyond our ability to obtain complete and total mastery of scientifically. One day that's just like, no, we're man, we're science, we can do it. All right, let's see what else is going on here. Wrapping, getting close to my expiration date with the hour mark, but Samuel Price, How to Train Your Dragon was my childhood. It's so dang good. Okay, well, yeah, I definitely have to give it a chance. Definitely have to watch it. It's weird. I mean, like I said, I never tried to avoid it or anything, but it's just, you watch some things and you miss some things, and those were some movies that I just totally missed for whatever reason. So give it a chance there. It was only a matter of time. Only a matter of time. The Weeb Pillar. I love your name. I don't know if this is like the name of your channel all the time, or if you just changed it to make this comment, but it's so apropos. Vinzinger, aka El Otaku, aka the Weeb Pillar. I love that, the Weeb Pillar. I want to recommend you check out Kamen Rider, Ultraman, and Super Sentai Film. Really good superhero shows. Yeah, all of those have been recommended to me at some point. Guyvart's going to be so mad that he wasn't here to throw in Guyver as well. I mean, I'm looking forward to having more time this summer. On the one hand, I do need to, I always need to kick up my income on the summer because I don't teach at the big university level. I don't teach that during the summers. Usually, sometimes they need a summer professor, but usually the faculty professors get that. But as adjunct professor, you don't really get a lot of work at the university level over the summers. So I tutor, I do freelance stuff here and there. I'll be doing YouTube, but if I don't need to go out and do other things, I'm excited to have more time to watch more things, and to I was telling Sound Engraver, when I have to teach so many classes during a semester because they don't pay adjuncts very well, and so you teach as many classes as you can, to make as much as you can, but it is a real time drain. And when you have free time, and you guys know this too in your own lives, if you're so busy with work or family or whatever, and you finally get some downtime, all your brain can do is just veg. Sound Engraver, I really envy her because she's so, I think it's also with her work schedule too, it's a little bit different. But when she has downtime, she's disciplined. I mean, she goes into creative mode. Okay, I got 3 hours here. Okay, it's time to compose, or it's time to write, or whatever. My brain doesn't work like that. I'm so overloaded and burnt out in some ways that's like, I would need a vacation just to get my mind ready to have a vacation. So if I have like a day off, is like, by the end of that day off, I'm finally got my mind put back together and I'm ready to have a day off. So it's I'm looking forward to the summer to maybe catch up on some of this stuff. Studio Super again, thank you another for the super chat there. So that gives Kong Skull Island a whole new layer, with Sam Jackson's character wanting to kill Kong, in a sense trying to conquer God. Time to show Kong that man is king. Kong Skull Island is a freaking amazing film on so many layers. You're absolutely right with what you said there. I did the video talking about Kong as as a hero, as a superhero. That movie kind of portrayed him in that manner. It's got the war commentary. It's got the nature, the commentary against man. It's just, it works on so many levels. Kong Skull Island really is amazing. I would really love for Sound Engraver one day to watch these movies with me, because she would enjoy them. She would enjoy the first Godzilla. She'd love Kong Skull Island like me. Even Brie Larson can't hurt that film. That's saying something. All right. The super chat here, as I'm getting ready to wind down, said, not reading that if you get, our Studio Super said, not realizing that if you get rid of Kong, the metaphorical god, no one left to protect you from the devil. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly in the movie, right? The what were they called? The skull eaters or something like that. Those creatures that were on the island that he was protecting people from or fighting. Yeah. Let's see here. Oh shoot! Come on, chat. Stop jumping around. Skull crawlers. Thank you, big boy. Yeah. That's so funny saying that. Thanks, big boy. But that is your name. That's your screen name. The Kong Skull Island is easily the best of the MonsterVerse, in my opinion. I would agree. I would agree that if I had to pick a favorite, I would definitely agree with you. Yeah. Skull Crawlers. Yeah. Thank you, guys. All right. Yeah. Kong Skull Island, it had such a great cast in it, too, you know? I don't know why that movie's not talked about more, not dwelled on a little bit more. I mean, I get it that we're in this, you know, shared universe days where we're just on to the next, you know, and even outside of a shared universe, cultural memory is just, you know, it's not much when it comes to media, you know, whether it's albums that come out by bands or whether it's movies that come out, you know, it used to be that a movie came out or an album came out and that defined like your summer or that defined like a whole year, you know, I mean, it was just like, it was celebrated. And that's why we can look back to the 80s and 90s now and feel such nostalgia for these movies that just really touched us. You can have movies just as high quality come out today and culture won't give them the time to really set in and people to have that kind of effect with them. So yeah, that's a pain in the butt. But that movie had, you know, John Goodman, Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson, as you said. I mean, it was just a great film. Really good. Another super chat here as we wrap things up from Andre Hernandez said, thoughts on Kevin Sorbo's Hercules? Recommend? Good adaptation or a bad adaptation? I've never seen the entire series beginning to end, but Kevin Sorbo's great. I'll watch anything he's in. Maybe not some of the super cheesy, you know, like Hallmark style things he's done, but I think he's great. I've met him. I loved him in Hercules. I have watched every single episode of Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda, and I can recommend that, even though I think some seasons should have done this or that a little bit differently or whatever. But I haven't seen every episode of Hercules, so I can't say stamp of approval from Professor Geek altogether, but I remember loving the show, watched a lot of it and really loved it. You know, it is what it is too. It's not the a true representation of the mythological Hercules in any way. Hercules is a myth. It's altered in every telling. And I really liked what they did with it, you know, and Kevin Sorbo's great. So yeah, watch it. It's awesome. Hey, there's Matt Wilkins in the chat. You missed him, Matt Wilkins, or maybe you were here, but we were going to take you down. We were going to talk about your fall. Wrestler Dude said the Hives made a new album after so long. It was so good. Bogus Operandi. You have to listen to it. Well, maybe I'll check that out. Yeah, albums. I just hate it that a band will put out a new album and it's really good and people like it, and then no more than 2 months are like, are they going to do another one? Like, can we just enjoy what they put out? My goodness. I liked Skid Row's last album with what's his name, Eric Grunwald, the guy that just left the band. I liked loved Sammy Hagar and the Circle, an album that they did. It was great. I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of classic bands that you know have given us so many great music over the decades don't put out all that much new music anymore. Because like the culture is just beyond it. Who even makes an album anymore, you know? Unless you're like, you know, in terms of like the current contemporary musicians, unless you're like a Taylor Swift with her kind of following or something, no one's really going to go out and buy your album. They'll maybe download your track if they like it or something, you know, but albums are kind of a thing of the past, sadly. Yeah. Yeah, Matt Wilkes had just been chasing two escapees from their cribs every 10 minutes. Yeah, hope your girls had a good birthday. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap up here in a second. Let's see. Sound Engraver is having a stream tomorrow, probably about 5:45. She's probably set it up already. She's usually pretty good about that. So you can go check that out. Check out Matt Wilkins' channel, of course. He just did a new Saturday Samoflange this morning. Those podcasts that come out every morning. And I should this reminds me too, because if you've been listening to my Iconicast podcast, I'm due to record episode 4 coming up here soon, and I'll probably move the Hercules talk tonight. I'll probably kind of develop that into its own segment on the Iconicast podcast. But I have an ad on that Iconicast podcast from Matt Wilkins talking about his channel and whatnot. I'm always looking for little ads that I can put on there. I'm not doing sponsors. I'm not that big or anything, you know, maybe one day if somebody approached me and it was the right thing or something, maybe. But I do like to have little segments, little ads in between the segments on Iconicast podcast. And I got one from Matt. I was asking, like every episode, I asked Fan Man if he's got one ready. He's like, "Oh, not yet." So, one of these days you'll see something from him on there or something he's doing. But other than that, I've been going out and finding like really cool trailer videos from indie comics or something like that, and putting those there. But if you have a channel, and I can't say that I'll definitely use it, because I might not know you, I might need to, whatever. But if you have a channel or an art service or website or something like that, you think it might be of interest to people who would listen to my content, shoot me an email at my Iconicast podcast email and let me know, because I am looking for some more audio ads to put on the podcast. And I can't remember what the Iconicast podcast email is right now, but I think it's the Iconicast podcast at Gmail, or it might be slightly different. Go to it's written on the show notes of my Iconicast podcast episodes, which are here on my YouTube channel. So if you just scroll back in my videos until you see the blue title card, this is Iconicast podcast, click on that, go into the descriptions, you'll see the email there. Yeah, I am looking for some more people's ads that I can run and just, kind of promote some people that are doing cool stuff that they might like. So that is tonight's stream. Yeah, Sound Engraver's 5:30 tomorrow, so you can check her out then. Mr. D-Man said vinyl never dies. It certainly hasn't. It's still around. I'm a CD guy myself, but yeah, vinyl is here to stay. That's for sure. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight. It was good chat, good talk. Really appreciated the time and appreciated the support from those super chats. Support those. Appreciate those just hanging out in the chat. That's fun too. Thanks for being here, getting the numbers up and whatnot. We'll see if we can keep going. I'll be back next week, of course. I'll cut out some videos this week. I'll try to get the episode 4 of Iconicast podcast out this week, or at least record it this week and maybe get it out this weekend. That would be great. I do have a busy week, but I really like to do that. So thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love, or kaiju stories you love. Thanks for watching.